Hey guys, welcome to my inner bed against helium dome tent. Just the inside, which is awesome because it's always a little bit lighter inside. The outside is red, as you may have seen in one of my reviews. Regardless, we're not talking about that, we're talking about my new sleeping mat. My old sleeping bag is still in use. I'm gonna get a new one relatively soon. I'm about to order it. It's going to be by a company, Roberts, in Poland. They do all kinds of sleeping bags and whatnot, but all handmade. So stay tuned for that. But today we're talking about this one here. I got myself a new Expert Eva pad. By the way, in case you're wondering, my dogs are a little bit annoyed at the moment because 4 out of my 4 females are in heat. So the boys are a little bit on the edge. So I got myself an Expert 4mm double Eva pad because I wanted to have something that is a little bit broader, and a new air-sprung sleeping pad, which in this case is the SeaToSummit Ether Light XT Extreme. It's a long fucking name. All of those have terrible long names. Anyway, it's about 950 grams because I actually bought the long version, but it's still the tailored one because that was the one that I could get for a fairly cheap price in from a company in Austria. But the thing is, in a winter time, you need to have something that is a little bit broader and a little bit longer because the sleeping bags tend to be longer. So you kind of have to think about that a little bit. In air sprung, in this case, it's the R value is 6.2, so extremely good. But it always comes with a caveat, you know. The problem with even though those here actually if you sit on it, I didn't extend it entirely because you know, when you have down sleeping bags, the problem always is that you kind of compress the down in it, so you kind of want to have a little bit less in those, so the R value will never be as good as advertised because that is always like on a max level, you know. If you don't have an Eva mat or something similar underneath, you will get more cold from the bottom. So that's why I chose a broader one. Granted, 4mm is extremely thin, so I might actually not go for that in the long run. I kind of, like, I wasn't really thinking, I thought it would be a little bit thicker. It's not. But it's lighter, smaller. You know, the problem for me is when you go on an expedition, you always have to think a little bit about weight and also volume, which is a little bit more problematic also when you go out with dog sled, because all their shit takes a lot of space as well, in particular food and whatnot. You know, so for me, I always have to think a little bit about that in terms of space. That's actually more important than actually the weight itself. Anirok, are you coming in? Come on, boy. Anirok, he's walking outside at the moment. Hey, boy, come in. Come. Good boy. Good boy. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to. Good boy. He's, like I said, he's a little bit nervous about all the females at the moment. Anyway, so like I said, you know, the R value, take that with a grain of salt always. So be sure that you always get an Eva mat underneath. I bought a broader one because I always sleep kind of like this, you know, and then I kind of tend to roll over a little bit. This one, hey guys, hey. So I wanted to have something that gives me a little bit more flexibility on that. Buddy. And the better Eva mats you get, the more R value, quote unquote, you get out of them. Have that in mind. I like to have it, like I said, a little bit broader, so have a bit more field to work with. Oh, they smell a little bit, oh, buddy. So yeah, for now, I'm pretty happy with it. It's definitely an upgrade, because thing is, always have that a little bit in mind when you buy stuff. I like that it's, you know, they all make noise. The RidgeRest, as far as I have seen, is actually more noisy when you think about like the maximum R value that it can get. If you see something that is down bass, don't buy it, because the tendency to contain water is quite high, so don't go for that. It's not so common any longer. There are brands like Xbit, I think they still sell one. Don't go for that. It's not good. The more the cell-based one, like those ones that you actually pump up yourself, you know, those ones, they work really well. I had one with a very low R value, but the problem, the biggest issue on those ones is not necessarily that you puncture them. They usually are fairly good made. The problem more is comes with a pumping system, or with a ventile itself, with which I had quite problems. So if you're going for something that you want to rely on, always go for a more pricey one, because they're actually much better built. However, like I said, with those ones, you always have a little bit in mind that they are noisy. So if you're really sensitive to that, you kind of have to think a little bit more in different terms. And then those RidgeRest mats, you know, they are much better value for the money. For me, since I have been winging it for so many years, I kind of want to go for something that is a little bit more quote unquote luxurious. Because I start to see it takes a toll on me, guys. It definitely does. I was really fucked last season after the season, you know, like living in a tent which wasn't really that well built, you know, and then going on trips with the dogs and whatnot, you know. It was a consistent cold, so I definitely have to upgrade. And this year I'm gonna do much more tours, so if you're not, you can wing it to a certain degree, but then you actually have to think a little bit about like, okay, where do you start? I think starting with a good bottom layer is a very good thing to do, because first of all, it is not as pricey. I mean, this whole set was, what did I pay? About 200, 250 euros, something like that. It was a little bit more because I also bought myself a vapor barrier, which I'm gonna do a different video to in the long run. You don't, the majority of people don't have to think about that other than your feet, but that air comes to a different point, at a different point. So just have that a little bit in mind. This is a really good value. I will link below. If you live in Europe, definitely check that out, because it is on a really low end price at the moment. I think it was 150 euros or something. 100, yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit more, but I have to check it. But definitely worth it. The other version was the RidgeRest that has 9.6 in terms of R value. But like I said, don't get hung up too much on the R value on the max end. Because you're never going to have the maximum availability anyway, because you have ground heat, ground cold coming up anyway, you know, and you compress the material that is used, and then you're not going to get the max out anyway. So always think about one base mat and then your air sprung mat, whatever you use. I can definitely wholeheartedly recommend those ones for now, because they also come with, like I showed to you in the which in the top end you're gonna have it anyway. You're gonna get quite a lot of like patches and stuff like that. What I don't like, and that is a big issue for me, because it makes no sense that they still do it. It comes with this cover here, which is kind of plasticky. Don't need that shit. You know, you can go for a small little item or whatever. You don't need all that bullshit to it. You know, and the same here. I mean, what the fuck do we need a catalog for? You know, you can check that out on the website. So it's funny when outdoor companies still do that crap. The smaller the better in terms of packaging. That's why I don't do unpacking or whatever. But as you have seen, it's the first time that I actually set it up. So we will see. I'm gonna test it out pretty soon. It's about to snow soon, so I'm gonna probably talk a little bit more when I get the new sleeping bag about it. So rolling it up goes fairly quickly. If you just start from the bottom, you know, and then you just roll it up with this system, it's pretty self-explanatory basically. And then you just have to, you know, half it and get it in there. I wouldn't recommend just squeezing it in because I'm not so fond of doing that with mats because they tend to be a little bit more less sturdy. But the last thing is this pillowcase pillow system here. I will never use it due to the fact that I usually take a bag, you know, not this one because it's too small, but for the other mat, it's perfect since it's a little bit longer. I can use whatever, you know, another dry bag or whatever, and just smush your clothes in there. The ones that you don't really necessarily want to keep warm, that you really need to. Hey, don't fucking do that. You try to piss on the on the thingy. No, buddy, huh? Don't do that. So it's no use, in my opinion, to buy a pillowcase, you know, and a sprung one for even that, you know. You can do that with your clothing because you need to put them anywhere, you know. The ones that you really need to dry or whatever, put them in your sleeping bag, either close to your body or just on your feet. I tend to not do that on my feet because I'm fairly getting quite sweating on my feet, so I actually do the counterproductive things. Buddy, huh? But yeah, just a few more things. I'm gonna pack this one up and then make myself a coffee or something and hang out with this fucking guy. With your buddy, huh? You have a good one. Have a good one, guys. Anirok, you coming in? Come on, buddy. Are you coming in? Come here. Me, the big boy. Me, the big boy. Hmm? Don't get hung up, my. You. What you doing, huh? Big boy.